The Walking Dead. In The Walking Dead, the zombies known as walkers are the horrifying result of a global virus that turns the dead into mindless, flesh-hungry monsters. What makes these creatures terrifying isn't just their appearance, but their relentless hunger and inability to stop, no matter the damage to their bodies. When the virus reanimates the dead, it first strips them of any humanity. They lose their memories, their reasoning. All that remains is the drive to feed. Walkers move slowly with their decaying bodies falling apart, yet their instinct to hunt is, well, terrifying. But perhaps the most unsettling detail is how they are drawn to noise, especially human sounds. A rustling in the bushes, the clink of a weapon, or a scream. It pulls them in, no matter how many times they've been stabbed in the skull or torn apart by other walkers. As they age, walkers become even more ugly and unnatural, their flesh rotting away, often leaving behind nothing but skeletal remains, but even in this form they can still kill. However, the scariest thing about these zombies is their sheer numbers. A single walker isn't much of a threat, but in hordes, they're unstoppable. They can surround, overwhelm, and rip apart anything in their path. The real terror comes not just from the walkers themselves, but the constant fear they bring. A world where every moment could be your last, with a simple mistake leading to a gruesome, bloody death. Zombieland. In Zombieland, the zombies, known as mad zombies, aren't your typical slow, brainless monsters. Think of the fast zombies from World War Z, but with a wild, unpredictable edge. These things are fast, violent, and nearly impossible to shake off. The infection comes from a mutated form of mad cow disease, turning normal humans into violent, pain-immune creatures. And even though their bodies are falling apart, they still move with deadly speed and strength. There are a few different types of zombies, each adding a new level of terror. Homers are the basic kind, dumb and slow at first, just moving around aimlessly. But if that fools you and you let them spot you, they'll move fast and come at you like a freight train. Then there are the Hawkings, who are much smarter. These zombies can actually use tools and set traps, making them much more dangerous. But the real nightmare is the ninjas. These dead guys are quiet and fast, attacking out of nowhere before you even realize what's happening. And yes, to survive, you have to stick to the rules. First rule is cardio, because, well, if you can't outrun these monsters, you won't last long. The second rule, as the movie called it, was double tap, which is making sure they're really dead by shooting them twice in the head. World War Z. In World War Z, the Solanum virus spread faster than anything the world had ever seen. It didn't crawl or sneak into cities, it crashed through them like a wave. People who got bitten turned in seconds, sometimes even before they hit the ground. And whatever rose didn't walk or groan, it sprinted, climbed, and swarmed like insects. It was for a good reason that these zombies remain one of the real-world apocalyptic nightmares. Everyone would love a zombie apocalypse, but not if we're talking about these specific zombies. Each infected person became part of a larger force that didn't stop or think. These zombies would stack on top of each other just to scale massive walls. Additionally, they didn't feel pain, they didn't get tired, and they never hesitated. One scream from a victim was enough to draw hundreds. In minutes, entire cities collapsed under the weight of the swarm. Governments fell trying to contain it, and military bases went silent one by one. People either fled, hid, or died trying to stand their ground. The lucky ones found safe zones that barely held together, and scientists scrambled to understand what they were up against. Eventually, they discovered that the infected ignored terminally ill people. That strange fact became the key to survival. A fake illness became a disguise, allowing people to create a camouflage vaccine injected in people to move through hordes undetected. Although it wasn't a cure, it gave humanity one small edge. But the outbreak had changed everything. Yet the next zombie outbreak would bring horrors no vaccine could hide from. The Last of Us. The deadliest zombie outbreak in The Last of Us doesn't come from a lab or a virus. It comes from nature. A mutated strain of the cordyceps fungus jumps from insects to humans, triggered by climate change and rising global temperatures. Once someone inhales the fungal spores or gets bitten, the infection takes over their brain fast. The person loses control within hours. While their body stays alive, their mind is gone, and the fungus spreads through their limbs, forcing them to bite others and keep the cycle going. And the infected people don't just become slow-moving zombies, they evolve. At first, they're runners, fast, aggressive, and unpredictable. As time passes, the fungus grows stronger and twists their bodies into horrific new forms. Some become stalkers, hiding in the dark and ambushing victims, and others grow into clickers, blind but deadly, using echolocation to hunt. And then there are bloaters, massive armored monsters that throw acid and rip people apart. When the outbreak happens, cities crumble, governments fall, and military zones collapse under the pressure. Survivors wall themselves into quarantine zones, but even those aren't safe since people do terrible things just to make it to the next day. During these times, the line between human and monster starts to blur. Ellie, a girl born with immunity, becomes the key to everything. But hope comes with a cost, and in this world, trust can be more dangerous than the infected. Yet the next outbreak mutates even faster and hits even harder. Train to Busan. Here, the zombie outbreak starts with a chemical leak from a biotech company. Something goes wrong at a nearby plant, and whatever it was spreads fast. The infection begins quietly, with a deer twitching back to life, then people start turning. One infected woman stumbles onto a train bound for Busan, and everything changes in minutes. She attacks a crew member, and the virus spreads like wildfire through the cars. For the infected, the transformation is brutal and quick. Victims twitch, seize up, and then spring back with dead eyes and twisted limbs. To make matters worse, the infected are violent, fast, and relentless. They slam their bodies into windows, pile on top of each other to break through barriers, and chase anyone who's still breathing. Since they don't feel pain, they don't stop, and they multiply with every bite. As the train barrels down the tracks, the passengers are trapped in a moving cage. People who were strangers a minute ago are now clinging to each other just to stay alive. Some break down, while some step up. A father who barely knew how to care for his daughter finds out what it means to protect her. But every stop they make brings more chaos, more infected, and fewer survivors. In the climax of the outbreak, cities fall, stations are lost, and the last hope lies in reaching Busan, where the military holds the line for now. While in this outbreak, people get trapped on a train. The next outbreak hits everywhere, all at once. 28 days later. The zombie outbreak in 28 Days Later started with an emotion: rage. Scientists had been experimenting on chimpanzees, trying to control aggression by altering brain chemistry, but it backfired on them. The chimps became uncontrollably violent, and when activists broke in to set them free, one bite was all it took to unleash the infection on the world. The virus spreads through blood and saliva, and it didn't need hours. It only needed seconds to take effect. And once infected, a person changed almost instantly. Their eyes turned red, their bodies jerked violently, and then they were gone, replaced by something furious and unstoppable. On top of that, these weren't the slow kind of zombies. They sprinted, hunted, and didn't need to eat brains, they just needed to destroy. Being infected, the virus made them attack anything that moved, and their strength came from pure rage. As cities fell, survivors realized this was worse than any outbreak they could have imagined. The streets of London turned silent except for distant screams and the pounding of infected feet. As the chaos spread, military safe zones collapsed and people turned on each other. In the end, the ones who made it through were forever changed. Survival meant doing things no one ever thought they'd do. To make matters worse, there was no cure, only time. But rage doesn't die down easily, and the next wave always comes harder than the last. I Am Legend. In this movie, the outbreak began as a medical miracle when scientists thought they had cured cancer by reprogramming a virus. But that hope quickly twisted into horror when the virus mutated. What started as a cure turned into a global plague that wiped out 90% of humanity. Most people died within days while a small group became immune. But the rest changed into something else entirely: Dark Seekers. These creatures weren't the mindless undead. They were alive, intentional, fast, and aggressive. And since their skin burned in sunlight, they hid during the day and hunted at night. Being predators, these creatures had strength far beyond normal humans and moved in packs. And while the virus stripped them of speech and reason, they retained their instincts. They learned, adapted, and were smart enough to set traps. In the middle of this, one man, Robert Neville, stayed behind in New York City as everyone fled. He was a military scientist and he was immune. By day, he searched for a cure using his own blood, and by night he barricaded himself in his home, praying to survive until sunrise. After being alone for so long, he almost lost his sanity and his hope. But one day he finally cracked it. He found a cure. And although it came at a cost, it gave humanity a second chance. This outbreak was quiet and personal, a lonely fight for hope. But the next outbreak hit like a war, loud, chaotic, and man-made. This time, humanity created its own apocalypse. Resident Evil. In this movie, the outbreak began with the Umbrella Corporation. In the 1960s, Dr. James Marcus, a co-founder of Umbrella, created the T-virus by combining the progenitor virus with leech DNA. This virus was intended to create bioorganic weapons, but instead led to catastrophic consequences. The initial containment breach occurred in the Hive, an underground facility beneath Raccoon City. The Red Queen, an AI system, sealed the Hive to prevent the virus's spread. However, the virus eventually reached the surface, infecting the city's population. In Raccoon City, the spread escalated rapidly, leading to a full-scale biohazard crisis where the infected exhibited aggressive behavior, attacking and consuming the uninfected. And it did not stop there. The virus also caused mutations, resulting in various monstrous creatures. The situation deteriorated to the point where the US government decided to eradicate the city to prevent further spread of the virus. And so, on October 1st, 1998, Raccoon City was destroyed. Amidst the chaos, Alice, a security operative for Umbrella, became a central figure. Portrayed by Mila Jovovich, Alice was exposed to the T-virus, which granted her enhanced abilities. She turned against Umbrella, seeking to expose their actions and find a cure. Her journey spanned multiple confrontations with Umbrella and the infected, highlighting the corporation's unethical practices and the virus's devastating impact. Yet even as Umbrella collapsed, the virus kept spreading. In the end, Alice finds an airborne cure and launches it. However, the big catch was the death of everyone infected and everyone with the virus in their blood, including her.